Joey not happy afterwards. I think Joey does the exact same thing to try to win $1 million.
Yeah, we want to see you go win $1 million, but also want to see how it could translate into the future.
I don't think he has a chance to win at Indy. I don't see it.
It looked like he just dropped it on purpose.
It almost hit one car at the end.
We should tape the flag to Michael's hand. Welcome to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour, presented by Echo Park Automotive and NASCAR on Fox. I'm Kevin Harvick. She's Kaitlyn Vincie, and he's Mamba Smith.
Yes, he is.
In the house.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Here once again. Final race completed for Fox there.
I can't believe how fast the season went by. We had 14 events this year, 2 off weekends, so 16 weeks went by like that.
Ended on a big one.
We ended on a banger.
Yeah,
that's what we ended on.
That was a banger.
It was a banger.
That wasn't even the word of the week.
No, it was not. No, there was no word of the week because I forgot to say it.
It wasn't me closers. I had a good one.
Yeah, that's my fault. It was supposed to be all about the Benjamins, but all the Benjamins got taken home by Christopher Bell. So yeah, I dropped it.
It was all about nothing.
All about nothing.
It'd be like that sometimes. We all make mistakes, guys.
I guess you're kind of off the hook now.
That's what our producer said. So
I don't think so.
I feel pretty good about it.
I can't let you off there. Typically, I have a lot of notes sitting there, and when there's a lull in the action, that's when I start formulating my plan to get the word of the weekend. And this week, heck, I never looked down. I mean, they were just from the drop of the green flag in the open. They were beating and banging and 3 wide, and 4 wide, 2 wide.
It was awesome.
It was fun.
It was fun. We have plenty to discuss on this edition of Happy Hour, recapping the weekend out at North Wilkesboro, preview ahead to Charlotte this weekend, and you got your sips on tap as well.
We got the sips. Yeah, we got good ones. We got good ones. And don't forget, Harvick Happy Pod, Twitter, Instagram, all the socials. Hit us up. It's been fun the first part of the year. So looking forward for the dog days of summer.
That's right. Keep subscribing, leave a review, leave 5 stars, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. So it was a busy weekend out there at North Wilkesboro because you had an additional task. We both did. The Cars Tour race happened and you were in the booth with Dale Jr. and Eric Brennan. Great event. I thought it went really well.
Yeah, it was a great event. I think we set the world record for longest prayer to start the race, and
they needed it.
We had a little miscommunication down to "Gentlemen, start your engines." But other than that, I thought it was really good. It was what a moment for short track racing and those late model stock guys to be able to showcase what we do at the Cars Tour on a week to week basis. Myself and Dale up in the booth. I don't know that I ever really thought that would happen. And that was really enjoyable to be able to not only share the booth, but share, we share a very similar passion in the things that we do on a week-to-week basis, with the Cars Tour. And so we spend a lot of time talking about the things we do with the tour, and we spend a lot of time talking about racing and all those things that we share that passion for. Kind of came across, and we were able to talk about together in the booth. So that was fun.
Did you guys have was there a little bet? Did you guys have a little bet for whose team was going to do better, or do you just leave that off to the side?
No, we leave all that off to the side. Okay. Yeah, we never even talk about it. And our car won the race. Landon Lewis did a great job. It was a great moment for him. We've been a part of the tour now for last 2 seasons. We started the year before when I started the late model stock team, and I honestly had not a lot of knowledge of just the kind of in-depth view of what the Cars Tour was all about. But not only the Cars Tour, but late model stock racing in the Southeast specifically. And if you're going to do it, you're going to have to go through that series. And so being able to own the cars, buy the tires, buy the pit passes, understand the process, it really gives Dale and I a different view of everything that happened. So it was a fun night.
It was a fun night. And I was doing pit road, and every driver I spoke to, you could just see how much it meant to them to be showcased on a network stage like that. And one of the drivers, Carson Quapple, who I didn't get to share this because he had an early kind of exit from the race, but he was saying he felt like the competition in cars is just as good as what he experiences in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, and that says a lot.
It does.
Well, you talk about Carson and talk about Lane Riggs and Josh Berry and Brent Cruz and Connor Zilic and all these kids, that have won on our tour. They immediately have credibility to say, okay, well, he can drive an ARCA car. Butterbean, our last year's champion, goes right into ARCA National and wins a couple races at Daytona and Kansas. And so, these kids, when they're winning in the Cars Tour, you can take them right out of the tour and usually put them in ARCA trucks and they're going to be competitive. So it has kind of become the stepping stone to get to the next step.
Yeah, it's a great thing. I think what you see is kind of what we've been having this conversation this year is when you're late model stock racing or even, it's really grassroots racing, there's OGs that have been doing it for so long, right? They're really good at driving these cars and they make you better. They make the kids better.
Right.
And they've been doing it for 15, 20 years. And even guys that are younger, like Landon Huffman, who's been running Hickory Motor Speedway and all around Tri-County and all that stuff, right? So those guys are racing against guys that are really good.
Right.
At this level. And so it makes them better that much faster. And without those guys sticking around and being cornerstones of a series like Cars Tour, they're not able to be ready like they are.
It was a very special weekend. Hopefully we'll see more Cars Tour on Fox maybe in the future. That'd be nice.
Great.
Let's do it.
Let's transition over to the weekend for the Cup side. It actually started with the Pit Crew Challenge. And I bet everyone sitting here was a bit surprised to see the pit crew that actually pulled off the big honors.
Yeah, I would have definitely not picked the 32nd ranked pit crew to win the Pit Crew Challenge. And the fun part about that, and the All-Star race is supposed to be fun. Yep. And to see those guys that hadn't won before, a team that was so green and fresh and building, not a Hendrick or a Gibbs, and to see the emotion every time they beat somebody, we'd go down, show them on camera, and you could see the emotion that was sitting there wanting to win that event. And so to have those Spire guys win that event was a lot of fun for the whole overall All-Star weekend.
Yeah, that's the new wave. All those guys were athletes in different sports, and they've now transitioned over, and you could see that. You could see that part of them come alive, and they were, there's a lot of nervous energy, and every time, like you just said, every time they beat one, they were jacked up. And then at the end, Michael McDowell's down there. You saw Chad Canals, I think, was down there because they're a Hendrick Devo team. So that's the cool thing about this is you get to see who's good when the lights are brightest.
Yep.
Like everyone knows who the top 10 pit crews are. You expect them to be good.
Yeah.
But these guys in the back, like, if they get an opportunity to be good on the big stage, like they might be able to crack one out, and they did.
And they did. And you look at the favorite, Bubba Wallace's team. I mean, they kind of laid an egg, right?
Pressure's real.
The pressure is real, and it's very easy to do. And when the lights are on and all the cameras are on and everybody's talking about you, and the expectation is for you to be number one, sometimes it doesn't go good.
Once a year, these guys are center stage.
It's true.
Their families, their friends, like if they went to college, all them people are watching. If they were in an NFL or MLB, them old teammates are watching. Everyone's watching you this one time a year, and so sometimes it goes like that.
That's right.
So that team got the $100,000 bonus from winning the Pit Crew Challenge, but Christopher Bell's team got the $1 million bonus. But right out of the gate, watching this race, the drivers were super aggressive. I think about that battle with Brad and Joey. It was like, lap 5, we're going for it.
Yeah. And we saw in the heat races, it really started there. And I think everybody started to learn. Well, let me back up. All this started in practice. And they let all the cars go on the racetrack at one time during practice this week. They didn't split everybody up. And it was by far the best practice that we have had all year because of all the cars being on the racetrack. They had 2 sets of tires. They had 45 minutes. And the teams were trying things. The drivers were not afraid to move around the racetrack on that first set of tires because they knew they had another set of tires. So everybody was really aggressive, and it kind of gave us a snapshot of what it might look like with all the cars on the racetrack, because when all 38 cars were on the racetrack, there wasn't a lot of space. That'll be the big difference when we have a points race here. Hopefully we do. That leader is going to catch the back of the pack really quickly, and you're going to start to immediately have to go through those lap cars. So it's, I think that in the heat races, the drivers started to figure out, hey, if I'm going to pass, I'm going to have to be aggressive, because if I spend 4 or 5 laps down here on the bottom of the racetrack, I'm going to heat my tires up, and it's going to be it's going to be tough to finish the pass anytime after that. And as they dropped the green flag in the Open and the All-Star race, they were a lot more aggressive than they had been all weekend.
You love to see it. That's exactly what we wanted. We want to see guys being aggressive, teams being aggressive with changes, trying things. Like, yeah, we want to see you go win $1 million, but also want to see how it could translate into the future and give us a snapshot of what we can do. Watching this, I feel like this track kind of races a little bit like IRP. You know what I mean? It kind of is multiple grooves. You can kind of run the bottom for a minute, but you better get back to the top.
Yeah.
It gives you the opportunity to do a slide job. You can kind of lean on guys a lot. You know, this car, you can get up in the fence and it doesn't kill you. Versus the old car, if some of the things that happened maybe with Christopher Bell towards the end, where he got up in the fence, it might have, knocked the fender in on the tire or something like that. So it's nice that those things
I wish Larson would have been there in practice. Because I feel like that's really what started to push the groove in the race, because he was
the first one.
He was the first one to have to make up ground, and he really pushed the groove up into that third lane through turns 3 and 4. Mm-hmm. They did a lot pushing the groove up in practice, but I felt like it would have been even wider if he was there, because he started to make some big ground in the race to make his way forward. So ultimately, he wound up getting out of the groove and smacking the fence and breaking the toe link. But that was what he was going to have to do to win the race. But I can't wait to see what this track looks like in 2 or 3 years when it gets a couple more years of age on it. It's and you heard Christopher Bell say it after the race. This is the best short track on the circuit.
Yeah. He was jacked up.
He was.
That was awesome.
So were the crowd.
Yeah.
The crowd was jacked up. That place was on its feet cheering. Nobody left. And when you don't have people exiting the stadium before the end of the race because they don't know what's going to happen and who won, you've put on a good show. And Marcus Smith and his group did a great job all weekend.
Race quality is very high at North Wilkesboro, for sure. You guys have been talking about how aggressive the drivers had to be to make something happen. No one more so than our eventual winner, Christopher Bell, making some moves there, obviously, with Joey Logano. And not surprising. I mean, we've grown accustomed to seeing this out of Christopher.
And he said it in our victory lap interview this week. He's like, I knew that I was either going to be first or just somebody else in the field. And he knew that he was going to have to get aggressive to make it happen. You see him make the move right here and Logano block him. And to me, when you block, it's game on at that point. And so he slid up the hill right there. Joey not happy afterwards, but I think if the roles were reversed right there, I think Joey does the exact same thing to try to win $1 million. Yeah,
I think he's also mad over the promoter caution there. Kind of jacked him up. But there was a move like a lap before that Christopher made, kind of setting up the pass. Mm-hmm. He rolls. Let's see. He rolled to the inside. I think it's right here. He rolls to the inside down into 3. And like shows the nose, and he kind of gets into him a little bit up off the corner. But what then happens is Joey kind of makes a move to the inside and throws a block right here, and then Christopher straight to the top. Yeah. And I thought right there, I'm like, oh, he's gonna roll in real deep and have a nice run off of 2. But Joey kind of did what Christopher did to him, which was kind of pinch him into the fence a little bit, and it saved him a couple laps. But ultimately, C-Bell had too much for him.
Yeah, and when you look at some of the things that happened this weekend. I mean, we had a few guys that were fired up at each other. Priest was fired up after the Open. He went and found a cone and set it up on the wall. For that restart box that he missed and made the 2 times before. But the drivers and their emotion, that's what we want to see. We want to see that emotion. I felt like in the Open, I felt like Priest was going to win the race. I felt like he had the best car in the Open race, and he was mad and trying to blame it on somebody else. But in the end, I mean, that's your responsibility to put that car where it needs to be. And knowing that, you also know that you had the best car in the race, and you know that you want to be in the big show, and it's not going to happen because of that mistake. And so you look at Brad Kay losing the lead there on the restart. That was his only chance. But all these guys know you're there to win. You're there to be in the show. You're there to win. And there's $1 million on the line, and I love to see the emotion.
Yeah, no one wants to be the guy going home. No. Do you know this is the anniversary of the shorts? One of your favorite moments?
Yeah, the shorts were there.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
Ricky
Shorts.
Shorts were there. Stenhouse wore them.
He did?
Yeah.
He wore 'em.
I can't remember who sent.
I think Corey tweeted it out. That he was
I
walking up
missed
her
that.
road.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well,
I called him, or I texted him on Friday, and I said, hey, just so you know, I don't know if you have those shorts anymore, but it would be really fun if you wore them to the racetrack.
You meant business. He was ready to rumble.
That's fantastic. But we're talking about some of the battles taking place, and there were a number of really good ones throughout the race. I'm thinking of when a couple of former champions were battling with Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, William Byron, going 3 wide. And both of those drivers have had a lot of bad luck as of late. And once again, it looked like Brad Keselowski was showing a lot of promise. And that comes to a close.
Yeah, and Kyle Busch fired off right here. I'm like, man, he caught me off guard. I didn't know where he came from, but he got a really good restart, put himself in the mix up towards the front of the pack. And, at this point, Brad was losing control of the race. We were a little bit weary of that at the beginning because we felt like that second lane, he was able to hold his ground, but Joey was being pretty nice. At the beginning of that race, and Brad was just a little bit too tight or whatever, loose or something through the center of the corner, and he just didn't have the mid corner speed that he needed. And eventually, when he got put back in the field right here, kind of just became one of the other cars. So definitely a fun show at the beginning, and the guys had plenty of room to race.
I don't know what more you could ask for than this right here.
Oh, there'll be something that everybody can complain about.
I don't know what more you could really want than from the drop of the green, guys getting after it, finding ways, moving around the racetrack, leaning on each other, not wrecking each other, because that was a big thing. That's been a big thing this year. Yeah. Kyle Busch has talked about multiple times. He was like, we're all clowns, just run into each other. They really didn't do now. Most of them didn't do that. There's a couple in the incidents in the back. I think Cindric had one with Chastain. But at the same time, they're all running 3 wide. Like, they're just trying to get what they can get. So I don't know what more you could ever want from a race. The soft tire was great. That seemed like it worked really well. So
we definitely made some strides at this particular race to say, okay, that was a better short track race with the same car, the Bowman Gray tire. The Bowman Gray tire at Bowman Gray, that race was good. It was good at North Wilkesboro. So, some of these other tracks that we've gone to that we didn't think the short track package was great. I don't know what to tell you. We've had a couple races that were pretty good, with this tire and on really small tracks.
Do you think so? Because they weren't shifting this week,
right?
I think that's kind of a big deal because usually they are. If we can get away from that.
I think you got to be really careful with that because, with the mid-quarter speed at Martinsville being so low, the RPM would be really low. So it's really tough at like a Martinsville to be in that position. Now, maybe at a place like maybe at Richmond somewhere.
I'm more thinking Richmond.
But the other thing is when they would run fast laps, which tells me they missed how fast the cars were going to run a little bit. At the end, they were hitting the rev limiter at the end of both straightaways.
Okay.
So when that top lane came in and they started ripping, they were up on the rev limiter. So, I mean, if they want to bump the RPM up, I'm sure nobody would complain. Or nobody would complain about that except for the engine builders and maybe the team owners. But nobody wants to talk about horsepower and nobody wants to talk about RPM. But who am I?
Here we go again. So this race, obviously, it did have the promoter's caution, but a lot less like gimmicks, if you will, than maybe some of the all-star events we've seen in the past, where you invert the field and you do this and you do that. I thought it worked out better that way.
Yeah, I think looking back at it, when you look at the promoter's caution, not really knowing when it was going to come out, and then you had the all-star caution at halfway, but it didn't feel gimmicky at all when other than Michael dropping the flag. It didn't feel that gimmicky. Everything else, I mean, it felt racy, it felt energetic. It didn't feel like the fans were bored. They were never bored at any point. So the only thing I did, the whole manufacturer's challenge was a little bit strange, just with the way that you had to add it up and kind of seemed like an afterthought a little bit, but overall, I think it was a home run.
I'm guessing that was implemented in the event we have new manufacturers coming in. Some other incentive for them, perhaps?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Chevrolet won, though.
Chevy won.
Chevy did win. Can we
Michael.
Can we talk about this for a minute? What's going on? Mikey, you got to hold on to the flag, my guy.
Yeah.
This gives a whole new meaning to Mike.
Yeah, when we heard that this was happening and Mikey was gonna wave the caution flag and was going to be the one coordinating when this caution would come out, we told producer Chuck that we should tape the flag to Michael's hand, or he was going to drop it on the racetrack. And
yeah. Sure enough.
It wound up on the racetrack.
I thought it looked like he just dropped it on purpose. But
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know. It almost hit one car at the end.
Yeah.
That part maybe not
How'd
so
they
much.
get it off?
Now I have seen people drop the green flag.
Yeah.
Out there waving the flag, and they kind of lose track of where they are, and then they forget to hold on to the
But
flag.
they don't know what they're doing.
Next thing you know, green flag is on the ground.
He's been doing it.
You're claiming that Michael knows what he's doing?
He should know how to wave the flag.
How many times do you think he stood in the grandstand?
Probably at least twice.
You think?
No.
Have you ever been have you ever been in a flag stand?
I mean, I've been in them, but not for the start of a race.
I've never gotten to wave. That would be
there's
neat.
nothing better.
I bet it's
when
really awesome.
The best part is when they come back around the second time after they take the green.
There and they are full speed.
That's a pretty exhilarating situation.
Okay.
Is it hard to hang on to the flag?
Oh yeah, because you don't realize how much wind that there is with the cars and everything going by.
Okay.
It's real.
So Michael, maybe we can give him a pass.
Okay,
it's harder
maybe he
than
gets
it
a pass.
looks.
One thing about that I was thinking about it when we did it, right? Like maybe if you're gonna do that, because we can do live polls. Maybe like in the first half of the race or something, do a live poll and ask the fans. Like, be like, are you liking what you're seeing?
Nah.
No? Because
don't like it.
Because it's so like, it's like, because now it feels like you're picking who's up front. You know what I mean?
Kinda.
Like, and I don't know. I feel like I don't really love.
I mean,
that
they
part.
waited until the last minute and almost bit him, because if they don't throw the caution, Larson's going to be the caution. He had just hit the fence.
I think I'd rather just let him.
They waited too long.
Yeah.
And that was going to be a caution regardless of whether they threw it or not. And apparently there was fireworks and everything that were going with it.
Oh yeah, Mike mentioned that at the beginning.
The caution was coming out regardless.
Yeah. Okay.
And they were in a mad scramble to throw the caution immediately.
They were.
And that was the promoter's caution, and they waited all the way until the end. But I'm all for the promoter's caution and not having all those gimmicks.
Yes, I thought it was a neat, unique element to add in.
I liked when there was less opinions and only a couple people in charge.
Oh, okay. I'll agree with
that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Trying to get everybody involved and making all this happen. No, we need less.
Less is more.
Less is more.
I'm going to tell you what, back at my home track at Thunder Road, Tom Curley, the guy that, him and Ken Squire, it was them two. Them two decided how the show was run. And if you weren't putting on a good show, they'd park you and you got to stay and wait for the end and you guys could get to come back out. Like
there you go.
They were legit. So
we ended on a high note for the Fox portion with the All-Star race. It might be a good time to just say, what do you think's been the best story so far this year of what you guys have seen?
I like the Josh Berry story.
Damn it. I was really excited to share my part, but
okay.
I mean, it's okay.
Well, go ahead.
No, we can both agree.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us your story.
All I was going to say is I think that has been, one of the bright spots of the season. Josh Berry winning at Las Vegas. He's been leading a lot of laps. He's really elevated Wood Brothers. Yeah. I'm not saying I didn't anticipate that he would, but it's been a pleasant surprise.
Well, you just never know how those things are going to go. And you look at the exact opposite on the Brad Keselowski side with his new crew chief and his team. It didn't take right off. It has run better the last 2 weeks. They don't have any results to show the speed that they had, but the Josh Berry situation immediately has fired off. Denny Hamlin fired off for the most part. They ran almost last night, but that's going to happen. Like, you're going to have those nights, no matter how good you are. You're going to have those nights in this next gen car. But I think that the few cars that I think really need to win are the 9. Mm-hmm. The 9 car needs to win. I think for them to keep their confidence level where they are, I think Chase Elliott has to win. I think that's the expectation that he has, the team has, the organization, and Alan has as the crew chief. They're consistent. They're finishing races. They're dotting the I's. They're good on pit road. They're doing all the things that they need to do, but they're not winning. And I believe if they don't win soon, that frustration is going to build. The other one is the 8. Yes. I think that if Kyle Busch, that doesn't stabilize with everything that we have talked about with contracts and this and that, I think that could boil over before it's all said and done issue. If there's not some bright spots pretty quickly.
Yeah.
What do you think's been one of the better stories?
I'm going to go with C-Bell. Bunch of wins at the beginning of the year, really dominating the front end, and then last few weeks, not as much, and then they've kind of turned it around, and now they're kind of looking like they're going to be set up well for the summer, just won $1 million. I think the Netflix show, Full Speed, really showed a lot of his personality and him and Morgan's character, and I think that show made people a Christopher Bell fan, because I
didn't even know it was on.
Yeah.
When did it start?
When did it start?
Yeah.
It started May 7th.
May 7th.
Yeah.
What's the date today?
May 19th.
Okay. Been out for 12 days.
Been out for 12 days. So if you watch it, I think you'll be a fan of Christopher Bell and pull for him. So I like that. I like what they got going on. And then when you look at guys that need a win or need to do something to stay where they're at, AJ Allmendinger's close in that 16th, 17th, 8th.
Kind of had a rough couple weeks.
They have not been able to finish, and we have road courses coming up, and so they need, one of those needs to be his.
Road course season's going to be interesting for Allmendinger, for SVG.
Yep.
Some of these guys that you don't think should be in the playoffs that could easily put themselves in the playoffs. And that's when it starts to get interesting. When you start having guys get into the playoff picture with a win that aren't even close in the points battle, then it starts to get interesting because you're knocking guys out. Then the Allmendingers are out. Then the Priestes and those guys that are right there around the bubble are all of a sudden way further behind because it goes to the next guy in the points. And that's, I feel like it could bump up into that Chastain area, even though it seems like he has a good points cushion right now. I think you got to take 2 or 3 of those spots out of the mix because of guys that are going to win.
It's going to be very interesting to see how the next couple of weeks play out. Of course, coming up next is Charlotte, and Kyle Larson once again is attempting to do the double, the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. It was derailed last year, his efforts, due to weather. Hopefully we don't have that same outcome this weekend, but what do you anticipate to see out of him? Because it's been a bit of an interesting ride so far. He's had 2 accidents within the last 2 months.
I think the goal is to run the 1,100 laps. I don't think he has a chance to win at Indy. I think with the way that they qualified and all the things that have happened this year, I think that hope is out of the picture. Personally, I don't see it. I think that he could come back and be a real contender at the Coke 600, and I think just being able to finish on the lead lap at Indy and run all 1,100 miles and check that box is probably the most realistic goal for this year. But still, an amazing feat. He's not had. It's not near as fun. It doesn't look like he's having near as much fun this year as he did last year with a couple crashes already and everything is happening. So it'll be interesting to see if he moves forward with it after this year, with it not being as much fun.
Yeah, it's hard for those things to be the same type of fun year 2 as they were year 1. Yeah. And when you back to back it like that, and there's so much hype, and like they were running so well last year.
Expectations are high. Yes. Going from what he did last year to this year, the expectation was to go there and compete for a win.
Yeah, basically.
And that was over early.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the goal should be to run the whole thing. It's just so hard to do that. Yeah. Winning, I heard a stat, like there's been like 7 winners. I think Mike Joy said this is like 7 winners or something from 21st or further back. Yeah. But that's not typical. The interesting thing about this though is how many wrecks there have been throughout the practice overall, which tells me the track is treacherous for everybody. I think last year was more like, all right, Kyle Larson's going, is he really the best driver in the world? Yeah. He showed he probably is. This year, it's not gone as well. So, let's make sure we get the overall goal, which is to complete all the laps. Yeah. And, it'll be interesting. I have Chip Ganassi as our interview this week on the show to kind of get some of that perspective of just what this month is like at Indy, what it's been like for the drivers. We had the rules infraction from the Penske crowd and just with Roger Owen in the series. And it'll be interesting to see what his comments are
towards that situation, because knowing Chip, he's definitely gonna have an opinion, which I like.
Can you speak on that a little bit? Like, because you obviously are part owner in the car store. You have a team that races in the car store.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sticky situation when your team is having infractions.
Here's what I tell my guys. Look, we've been thrown out of the car store, so we got thrown out in the first race that we won. So that tells you my expectation from team owner, series owner, as to how mine and Dale's cars should be under more scrutiny than everybody else's. If you're going to do an hour's worth of tech, you should do 2 hours on our car and take more apart, because the expectation is exactly that. You should hold the highest standard to the car, and if my guys don't do a good job, then they should suffer more than everybody else. Yeah. And so it is a tough balance, but I've been very clear with my team after we had that first problem to understand the rules. That's really what we did the first time. We didn't read the current year rule book. We went off of the last year rule book and just didn't follow the current rule and didn't do our due diligence, which is what comes down. That's how most of this stuff goes down. You don't dot the I's and cross the T's by keeping yourself updated with everything that you need to be updated with. It's kind of like the spoiler shim thing with Priest, right? Yep. Most likely they just put that in there to get the angle right, didn't understand the detail of the rule with the guys that were doing it, and bam, penalty. But that's how a lot of these penalties. Now, there are intent, but like in late model racing, you're relying on a lot of people. You're relying on your chassis builder. You're relying on the engine builder. You're relying on the transmission guy, the rear end guy. All the parts and pieces are bought. We make nothing in the shop. We just basically assemble the car. So you're putting a lot of faith in a lot of people, and sometimes that goes wrong. But Dale's had some issues with shock penalties and different things on his cars, and it's the same thing. Well, we went from a car store race to a NASCAR race, didn't do this right, and it was wrong. But when it's wrong, it's wrong.
Speaking of relying on things, there's no bigger race that you need to rely on engine, driver talent, pit crew than the 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Yeah. It takes everything to win one of those races. Every area has to be buttoned up, and you have done it in the past, sir.
Yeah, I think I've won that one a couple times.
3 is what
how many
this
do you have?
says.
Is this
so it's been.
Is this accurate?
I don't know.
I know it's at least 2.
Okay.
I don't really know. To be honest with you.
I don't really.
But it's a really hard race to win.
Well, here's the thing about the 600 that's hard. It starts in the day and it ends at night. Right. And usually in the day, it's hot. And Charlotte is a very weather-sensitive racetrack. And my goal was always just to be on the lead lap when it got dark. And if you're on the lead lap by the time it got dark, it just always has a lot of mistakes in the beginning of the race. You have already made several pit stops before it gets dark. Usually a lot of people spin out and crash at the beginning of the race. There's always seems to be some sort of drama at the beginning of this race. So I've been there and not had that, and been lapped a couple times before it got dark. I've been there right where I need to be and lost them late and won some. So you just have to keep yourself in contention at this one. Dot the I's, cross the T's. I've seen a lot of mistakes on pit road. You're going to make a lot of pit stop. It's a long day for the spotter, driver, crew. So that last 100 miles is hard to program your brain for. It is tough to say, oh man, we got to 500 miles and I still have to go another 100. So it is a long night.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. But it's a crown jewel race for our series.
Oh, it's huge. Mm-hmm. This is one of those top 4 races that you definitely want on your resume, and you get a ring for it. Like that, like when, SHR, we were fortunate enough to win. If Kevin or Ryan or Tony or any of these guys won one of those races, we all got that ring. Those races mean more to everyone at the shop, because you're getting
some
something.
bling.
Yeah, you get some bling.
Bling and a bonus.
You get a little bit of flash. That bonus hits a little different.
Yeah, that's right.
Everything's a little better when you win those ring races, those crown jewels. And, it's one of those races we've been watching for the whole entirety of NASCAR, and the World 600 is the pageantry of the event. Yes. Is awesome. I'm looking forward to going to it and just taking it all in. And I always think when I'm on pit road, like right before the flyover and stuff, you look in the crowd and everybody is just, it's just electric coming out of the crowd. Out of the crowd, it's just different at Charlotte because we're home and everything's awesome.
And no other sport is more patriotic than NASCAR. And this is a very big weekend for the military and people who have served this country. So it's always a very special weekend. It is time now to drink. It's sips time.
Oh,
hey,
we're already here.
Perfect.
We're here to sip.
America, lend me your ear. Welcome to Mamba's Social Sips, Kevin's favorite part of the show.
We're still saying that shit?
Yeah, because it's still true. Listen, we're going to start with our 3-time champ, Joey Logano. Him and his wife, Brittany, are 2 characters.
Yes.
And I highly enjoy when they start getting into the social media game and stuff. Well, they did a little undercover shopping at one of the Ford dealerships the other week. Let's roll the clip.
Hey, it is Joey and Brittany Logano usually, but today we're Henry
and Leon.
Why don't we take it for a test drive?
Oh, music
We'll
to my
have
ears.
both of you guys drive. You want to drive it too?
No, I'm good.
No, you good?
Do you know where we're going?
Yes.
I always bring a map.
Yes, sir. I love it.
Honey, you don't even need those heated seats. You already got that hot. I like that. Joe, put the window down, Joe.
What are you doing?
It was Joe's idea to check out the.
Joe!
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
That's
it's
funny.
on YouTube. Go check it out. I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I need to because it just looks like they had a blast.
Yes.
doing that.
I like
funny.
the hot ass comment.
Oh, you
That's
don't need
funny.
no seat warmers back there. You already got that hot ass.
They're a cute couple. They do funny stuff like that. They're
Listen,
cute.
when they won the championship, I went down to congratulate Brittany. And the first thing she does is sticks her finger in my face and goes, "Don't you ever vote against Joey Logano ever again." I said, "Yes, ma'am."
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Noted.
Would you guys have never done any undercover shopping or anything
stuff?
like that, have you?
No.
No?
We did reality shows and all those things back in about 2001.
You did NASCAR
Really?
360?
We did NASCAR 360. I think it was 05.
Okay.
NASCAR 360. Yeah.
That was a great show.
That was kind of the beginning of when all that stuff started happening. So
I'm not gonna lie, we were ahead of the times.
we were.
With that. That show was badass. Someone else who's a badass. He's a great person. Probably one of the garage's favorite guys, BJ McLeod. His Cup team is just part-time, just here and there. But for the first time, Kevin, and maybe his entire career, because I'm not exactly sure, he's running I would say a top-tier car or truck. And for a good team, has opportunity for the first time. What do you think?
I think it will be very interesting for BJ to be able to do this. And I go back to I love BJ McLeod, great person, have a great relationship with him. But I go back to the Corey LaJoie situation when he got in the 9 car
Hendrick.
of Chase Elliott's and didn't go like everybody thought it might go. And I think, getting in the good equipment, sometimes it's just a different scenario than what they've been used to. When you're in the equipment, you have the expectation to run up in the front, and sometimes it just doesn't always go that way. So it's not as easy as just stepping in saying, all right, tonight I got some good stuff. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to go out there and go fast.
Yeah.
It's just not that easy.
Yeah. Well,
So that's Charlotte. He's doing.
I hope it
race.
goes well.
Yep.
yeah.
Well, you'll be calling the action to see
I
how
will.
it goes. By the way,
Jamie Little's, she's got to be in Indy, so I'm going to take over the play-by-play for Friday night's truck race. So that'll be fun.
Kevin's good at that.
I'm gonna have to pop in the booth and see how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little behind the scenes action.
Yeah. Well, we're probably a few people shy.
Who's
I think
with you?
everybody's on Indy. Mama now. So just bring some snacks and some water. I'll be fine.
I got you, man. He'll be driving the Pigeon Ford Racing Coaster, which is super cool. I hope BJ just put him on the dash, buddy.
I hope
Send it.
do it. I hope he does it.
I hope so too. Remember, if you guys want to leave a voicemail, it is 805-317-4175. And if you want a mailbag question, HarvickHappyHour4@gmail.com.
Yeah.
That's your sips this week.
There you go. Send them our way.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario, new customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/audio. NASCAR is not responsible for this promotion and used under license.
Okay, guys, before we get into our picks for this week, let's take a look at the best bet of the weekend, Kevin, courtesy of DraftKings.
Yeah, I thought Kyle Larson. I almost pulled a Boyer right there. I almost pulled a Boyer right there. What I was going to say is I almost...
It's fine.
That's what happens. Start over. That's what I told Clint. I said, if that ever happens, just hand me the mic, please.
Yes, exactly.
I was going to say Kyle's bet last week didn't have a lot of room to make a lot of money.
No.
Christopher Bell's bet this week has less room. He was plus 175 to win the All-Star race. So I don't remember who I picked.
We picked Blaney.
Blaney.
Both of them. You picked Barry.
I picked Barry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when I set my DraftKings fantasy team, I picked Bell as my A player. So that I'm sure worked out well for me, even though I'm almost last in the standings. But in these standings, I am not last.
How does that work? How are you not last in these standings, but over there you're getting your butt whooped?
Maybe I should just start setting my team on Monday.
Oh, maybe.
Right? And not overthinking it.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Yeah. So, and here my competition is just a lot easier as well.
You're mean.
She took way more offense to that. Like, that's mean.
Here, read your read.
I have less competition here.
Read your read.
Take the checkered flag with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Harvick. That's code Harvick for new customers to get $300 this week in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
All right. Good job. Well done.
Who's winning?
Speaking of crowns.
You're winning.
Yes, we know he's winning. Well, here we go. Here's the standings. Yeah, Kevin's still P1, 55 to my 39. You're 27.
Yeah, I mean, even if anybody doesn't make a pick right for the rest of the year, I'd be fine with it.
I'm sure you would be.
Okay, you know what? For the rest of the year, whoever starts 33rd, that's who Kevin gets for every race.
I don't know if he's going to go for that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, what about this burnout? Because you shared a little insight on this particular one that I thought was kind of interesting that we didn't.
Well, the burnouts at North Wilkesboro are just better. And because you're right on top of the racetrack there. Mm-hmm. I thought Bell was going to do a little drifting right here, but it didn't end up being that way. But he did some great donuts at the start-finish line. From the booth, it was really cool with the way that the smoke was blowing. He did all these burnouts, and that left front tire was just pinned, making perfect circles. But he wound up parked almost against the wall right there, and we couldn't see him until he was up on top of the car. So when the smoke cleared in front of the booth, he was there.
That's neat.
So that was pretty cool. It looks less cool from this camera angle because he wasn't out of the car yet. But I don't know. Just it kind of reminded me of Logano's burnout last year. So yeah, it's in that 8-ish. 8-ish. Yeah.
Good job, Bell.
Again,
it was good. Just nothing spectacular.
Yeah, like I need some showmanship.
Yeah,
on a win.
Yeah, if you're going to be great, you're going to have to drift all the way around the racetrack or flip somebody off while you're doing your burnout or
honestly
something spectacular.
Spectacular.
Yes.
Okay. Well, bar is high once again. See what people do.
Burn it to the ground.
The rest of this season. Okay, time now for us to make our picks on who we think can get it done out there at Charlotte for 600 miles.
600 miles. That's a long ways.
It's a long time.
I'm going to go with William Byron.
All right. I almost picked him, but
yeah, it just seems like you want to copy everything that I do.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe we just think alike. Have you ever considered that?
Maybe. Yeah, we're both losers this week.
All right. Well, I'm going with Logano because he strikes me as a driver who could. Him and that team, they have what it takes, I think, to win that race. And he's already mad after what happened last week.
He is. This is typically the point where Team Penske really starts firing off on all cylinders. It usually starts 600 weekend. So it's time.
Again.
YRB.
I knew it.
Run it.
Going with it.
Run it.
Gonna have to break the barrier down at some point.
I mean,
yeah.
It's
it's just gonna be one of those years where it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But they have the speed to win.
And they're confident. They are confident here.
Yeah.
Like they love this place. So I think it's theirs to get. It's either them or a Hendrick team. I feel like at 600 typically right now.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Home race. We'll have to see how it all goes down. That's happening in NASCAR, as we've talked about. Indy 500 on the other side of things, and Ganassi will be the guest.
Yes, Chip Ganassi this week. I think just with his NASCAR ownership, just hearing the differences between the two series and all of his success on the Indianapolis 500 side and the IndyCar side, it'll be a great conversation. I've always had a good relationship with Chip, and he's always pretty honest. So I can't wait to hear some of the answers to some of the questions that he has.
Shout out to Scotty Mack and the Thirsty Threes. I hope the yellow sub gets it done this week.
Okay. That Indy 500 is on Fox this Sunday, May 25th. Coverage starts at 10 a.m. Eastern. Closers, make sure you keep subscribing on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review, leave 5 stars. No more leaving a word, but we will see all of you after
you can still leave a word if you want to.
600 weekend. We'll see you then.